Hello, everyone. In our today's topic in maths, we'll be looking at indices. The singular form is index, while the plural is indices. So, what do we mean by an index? An index is a number that tells us how many times a term multiplied itself. An index tells us how many times a term multiplied itself. So, if for instance we have 4 to the power of 3, what this is trying to tell us is that 4 multiplied itself 3 times. So this 3 here is the index. This 3 here is the index. While the 4 is the base. So the index is telling us how many times 4 multiplied itself. So we can expand this to become 4 times 4 times 4, giving us 64. This is just what a simple illustration of what index tells us about. So before carrying out basic calculations in indices, we need to know some fundamental laws. We need to know some laws which will be helping us in performing the calculations in indices. So we're going to be listing out those laws. Laws of indices. The first law we'll be looking at is the multiplication or product law. Now, this multiplication or product law tells us that when multiplying indices, with the same base, we are to simply add the powers. When multiplying indices with the same base, we are to add the powers. So if, for instance, you have a to the power of m times a to the power of n, you can see that both of them have the same base, which is a. So all we need to do is copy the base a and then add the powers. This is the first law in indices. Then the second law is the division law. And this law tells us that when dividing indices with the same base, we are to simply subtract the powers. So if we have a to the power of m divided by a to the power of n, we copy the base since they have equal base. So we'll subtract the powers. Then the third law is the power of 0. The power of 0. The third law is the power of 0. Now in this law says that any non-zero value raised to the power of 0 is 1. Any non-zero value raised to the power of 0 is 1. It can be 1, it can be 10, it can be 100, as long as it is not 0. So if we have a to the power of 0, it will definitely give us 1. 2 to the power of 0, it will still be 1. 100 to the power of 0, 1. 1 million to the power of 0 is 1. As long as it's not a 0, this digit is not 0. So, go over to the fourth law, which is brackets with powers. Brackets with powers. Now, in this law, it tells us that whenever an index appears outside the bracket, we are to simply multiply the powers. Whenever an index appears outside the bracket, we simply multiply the powers. So if we have a to the power of m brackets n, so you can see that this n is outside the the bracket. So what this simply means is that we are going to multiply the powers, a to the power of m times n. Then the fifth law tells us about negative indices. or rather, let me use the term negative index. Now, in this law, whenever a term has a negative index, whenever a term has a negative index, you have to write the reciprocal. Okay, you have to write the reciprocal, and by doing so, the index will no longer be negative but rather positive. So, if we have a to the power of minus m, you see that this is a negative index. It's a negative index. So, what we do, we write the reciprocal, and the reciprocal is 1 over a to the power of m. By writing the reciprocal, you have definitely changed the index from negative to positive. 6, the sixth one, which is the final law which we're going to be stating for now, which is the fractional index. Fractional index. Now, when a term has a fractional index, when the index of a term is a fraction, when the index is a fraction, the numerator is the root of the number. The numerator is the root of the number, while the denominator sorry, the numerator is the power, while the denominator is the root of the number. The numerator is the power, while the denominator is the root of the number. So if, for instance, we have a to the power of m over n, it simply means that the denominator, which is n, is the root of the term. So I will simply put n root a, while the numerator, which is m, represents the power. So I've discussed 6 basic laws which we need in calculation involving indices. So in our next video, we'll start with the main calculations by applying all these laws. Thank you very much for watching.